Hey, 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 what is happening, everybody? What is going on? Welcome into another stream. My name is Ian Robinson. I'm the lead ZBrush trainer, and we are here to have some fun. Looking at the comments already, you want to see if Maxon fixed their bugs. Go ahead, and so Maxon has a support page in which you could definitely please go through and input those bugs. Go ahead and reach out to support, let them know they exist, because every time you find something, when you reach out to support, they'll go ahead and they'll, take note of the issues that you're coming across. That's the beauty part about a company that has a support team. So if anything, actually, let me just pull up real fast where you can get that information, and then you can go through and submit them right away. So if we don't find them, we don't know they exist. So it is definitely helpful that you reach out to support, and that goes for all of the products there too. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just throw in the chat a link where you could follow and go to the appropriate stuff, and then you can push in that stuff. So please go through there and submit them. Yes. Also too, Frederick, what's happening? Good afternoon. For me, it is morning, but good day to you as well. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. Irene, what is happening? Beef, what is happening? Glad to have you here. Guys, this is super exciting. So real quick, small thing to the UI. You guys probably are used to seeing me with a keyboard on the screen, but I updated OBS, and now my keyboard thing doesn't work. So I always call out my hotkey shortcuts, but I'm going to try to get that fixed for the next stream. Let's put some tunes on and go over what we're going to be doing today. All right. So today what we're going to be doing is continuing our lovely character here. I've been working on Watto. Started him for May the 4th, didn't finish him for May the 4th because I just didn't finish him. So that's what we've been doing. So we have a lot of fun stuff, but we're going to cover a little couple tips and tricks, as well as if you have questions, please feel free to yell at me. Say, hey, give me your questions. What I wanted to cover to today's little kind of tip was I wanted to get a little bit of a noise texture on him because he's still too smooth, too clean, and I want to see just a little bit of noise on him. So I'm going to show you a couple things about the noise system that might help you create custom textures and or noises. I also realize I'm not using this mic at all, so let me push that out the way. So let's actually real quick, let's grab a sphere. So I'm going to put our fun guy here. What I'm also thinking about doing is getting him a facial expression today. That is going to be on the list of things to do. So let's go ahead, grab a, I did that again, didn't I? Let's do this. Let's clear this out. I want to put him over here. I want to do a nice little control stamp, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different simple brush here, say switch, and then I'm going to pick a cylinder, drag this out, not a cylinder, a sphere. I'm going to come up and hit edit or T on the keyboard and then make polymesh 3D. So now I have this guy right here. Perfect. So if you want to create some custom textures or noises, what you can do actually is come up here to, and it doesn't matter if you have UVs or not. If you do have UVs, that's always a little bit helpful, just because you could do a little bit more controlling. But if I come up to surface and I go to the NoiseMaker right here, what's really cool about this graph is that you can actually make some really interesting choices or decisions here that will give you different results. So for example, a lot of you might know you could just grab a dot and you can move this up. Now we can't see anything, so let's increase our noise. So you can see you can just move this up and down, right? But what you may not know is that if you're holding this and you move off and come back, you actually change this from a soft transition to a hard transition. And if I want a little bit of a porous look to this guy, what I can do is come up and let's generate maybe a sharper texture, something like that. Then I'm going to add an additional one, come off, come back in, and give it just a little bit of a harder transition there. So this might be good for some alien skin. Come in and maybe do something a little bit like this. Now I like to do stuff on a sphere just so I can get a sense of how it's wrapping. So maybe say something like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say okay, and this is what this is giving me, which is kind of cool. But now here's the thing. If I go ahead and just apply this to the mesh, of course, too, you're going to get not a whole lot. It's because you actually need some sort of geometry to support that. But the reason why I start here is then if I get what I like, and I say copy, now when I go ahead and say, oh, yep, okay, and then I come back to this guy, and then now I'm selected on his body, and we're just going to go ahead and turn the color off for now. So I'm just going to go ahead, hold Shift, Control, all the color. Now I'm going to come on up to our surface noise. I'm going to go ahead, let's just delete this one, say turn this one on. If I zoom in here, get really close, and now I can just come up and hit paste, and now I have this, and of course too, now I can control the sizing of this to make sure that it fits or matches a little bit more. And then I say okay, and now I have this on here. So this is a really great way to come through and actually get a lot of that noise and custom textures in there as much as you want. And then of course too, if you're new, you might notice that you can actually mask out or paint out a section. So if I don't want it on his eyes or something, with a mask, I can actually protect those areas. And then if I were to hit, you know, apply to mesh, then it's going to apply only to where everything is except for the mask. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of a tip. Hopefully that helps some people out with the surface noise. And if you guys have questions, let me know. But yeah, we're going to continue moving forward. I actually like the way this is looking right now. So we're going to go ahead and leave that on. But now let's go ahead and get a facial expression going for him. And it looks like I accidentally turned on cinema. I don't need cinema turned on. Let me go ahead and close this down. Say don't worry. I must have accidentally bumped over GoZ. Let's close that down. All right, we don't need that. Perfect. All right, let's get a facial expression going. So I'm going to pull up my reference because the reference is key. Yeah, where are you? How's everyone else doing? Hopefully you guys are doing well. So it's the load, recent, and then let's go to our Watto. There we go. Now what I am thinking is not an angry look, but kind of more of a subtle look like this. I don't want to make him too happy. I want him to be a little bit focused, but I don't want his face to be, you know, boring. So I'm thinking a little bit more something like this would be good. So we'll go ahead and pivot this off to the side here, and let's start working on his face a little bit. Would I ever take noise like this into Substance to keep working on other maps? You know, I haven't taken the noise directly because I'm not sure if you can take the noise directly into Substance, but I have done it to have the high resolution done. But that actually leads me to another point, which is if you make height changes in Substance, you can bring that back into ZBrush, and I could show that, but I don't think you could take that into, yeah, I would say no, you can't take that into Substance, but if you wanted it to go into Substance on the final model, I would bake this onto your final mesh for your high resolution, then bake the high details to the low details. But if you wanted to, for example, if we come back here, I'm going to go ahead real fast, and I'm going to go ahead and create a displacement map with this, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this because the UVs are exactly the same, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the noise on this one. So I'm going to delete the noise on that one, and we're just going to focus on this guy. I'm going to hit solo, okay? And then change the polygroup just so we can see the difference. And then I'm going to bring up what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the resolution to like 2, and then I'm going to apply that. So now I have this noise here, okay? Then I'm going to step all the way back down. So I'm going to go all the way back. Oh, no, wrong way. I hit the wrong button. I was subdivided. My brain is on. I was dividing, not removing. Okay, so now I'm on the lower version of this. So again, I subdivided up to 2 million. I baked the surface. Now I'm going to step back down. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to displacement map, and I'm going to create an export. So I'm going to go ahead and say create and export this map. And I'm going to put this on the desktop, and I'm going to call this test just for the sake of it. So this will be helpful to bring height information back. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now I have this model, right? The UVs are exactly the same, So if I wanted to bring displacement or height map information from Substance into ZBrush, which would be the other way, come in here and just create a new texture map, okay? And then come into displacement, and let's go ahead, click here, and import our new displacement. So I have this guy here, I have my test TIFF. So I'm going to bring this information in, and if I increase the intensity a little bit, it's going to grow. So now, let me actually do this one over because the UVs are kind of funky dunky. So here, let's do this. Let's start this information over. Let's come through here. Okay, let me get some cleaner UVs real fast. So I'm going to come through here. I'm going to do this. This way you can see it. So I'm just going to create some custom UVs real fast. PolyGroups. Let's go. Let's unwrap that. Perfect. Okay, so now we have that height information. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. Actually, one second. Let's go back before we applied the surface noise. All right, let me just start this over. I made a mistake. I actually applied it too soon. So let me redo this. So real fast, I'm going to create UVs on a clean sphere. So I'm going to unwrap this so that the UVs are nice and clean. I'm going to duplicate this so that that's the same base mesh. So that would be the low mesh. And then now here, I'm going to come through. I'm going to go surface noise, noise. I'm going to paste this information in here that I had. And then I'm going to apply the mesh after subdividing. So this would be my high. Okay, so I have my high mesh and I have my low mesh. Now, again, like I said, you can go into Substance and you could say, hey, this is actually going to be a baked information, but now I've added information in Substance. I want to bring it back to ZBrush, like for 3D printing and stuff like that. Okay, so then from here, now the UVs are going to be the same. I'm going to, on this high version, create the displacement map as if I created it in Substance. So we'll just come through. We'll do this one more time. And we're just going to go ahead and overwrite this test. It's a great question, by the way, so I want to give it some attention. Now from here, again, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go to my texture. I'm going to create a new texture. And then from here, I'm going to go to displacement. And then let's go ahead and add that in. There you go. Let's clean our UVs. Okay, so now you can see here that when I check the intensity, I can actually bring that information in as a texture. I can drive that texture. And then if I want to actually apply this, I come here and say, apply displacement map. Now apply to the mesh. Now this is a low resolution mesh, so I'm going to subdivide up. So undo that history, subdivide up. You just play with that intensity. So let's say like 0.05, apply. And now if I turn off the texture map, you can see it's actual geometry that I put on there. So you just want to find the right intensity. So that's how you can bring that information back. But going back to the original question, can I take this noise and put it into Substance? I would say not as a noise plugin, but what you would be able to do is apply it to the mesh and then bake that information. That's the approach I would take. Yeah, you could take the displacement. You could take the texture map. You could take the displacement map. You could bring that into Substance. I don't do that typically because when I go into Substance, I typically want to create everything within Substance. So that's why I'd be using it in the first place. But for things sculptural, you could absolutely do that. Yeah, you could bring that stuff into Substance. So that would be the only other way, I guess, to do it would be driving the maps. But then again, too, like because Substance is a texture program, when I go into there, I'm going in there with the idea of driving certain textures. So it is a pipeline thing. So yeah, you could do it that way. Yeah, I did not set a morph target for just creating this map because I was just showcasing if you had the map already that we were coming in. But if you are working with displacements map, definitely ideal to set a morph target before you go through that. And the reason why, that's why I had to start over because that was my mistake. Because now this is the sculptural version of it. And so if I were to go back in time, before I even did any of that information, I should have applied a morph target. And I highly recommend that because if I were to come through and start sculpting, right, now that sculptural change, the mesh is completely different and creating that displacement is not going to work out. So you need to switch back to the unsculpted version. So that's why, yes, you would want to do that. In this example, I did not do that just to showcase it, but yes. Great stuff. Hello, Peace Love. How you doing? Hello from Brazil. Hi, Thango. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. You are so welcome. All right. Yeah, that's actually something I want to start doing in my streams too, is starting off with a nice little tip or trick, something that I might find beneficial. So if you guys like that stuff, let me know. We'll make it an official segment. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and start posing an expression on his face. This is something I want to get right. So let's go ahead and let's push him to transpose master. It's the way I like to pose currently, although I'm playing with a few other things. Hi, Rye. How you doing? Do I use Blender? That is the question of the century. I do use Blender from time to time, but it is not in my main professional workflow, no. I have used Blender. I have used it in many ways, but in my professional work, no, I do not use Blender. Also, yeah, so there you go. That's it. Leonard! What's up, Leonard? How you doing? How you doing? All right. I'm going to go ahead and do a fun little mask of his face. So I'm going to come through here. All right. So we're going to pick a mask. I didn't mean to mask his finger. Now for his mouth, I'm going to soften this mask up. I'm also going to hide these guys here. I'm going to mask this section. Yes. So now the top part of his mouth is all masked off, and everything else should be protected. All right, and now we're going to come through here. Where am I from? So I work at the Maxon office in Los Angeles. Oh, yeah. Feeling old, or is that old? Nah, never. All right. Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to kind of massage this mesh a little bit. So again, when you're posing anything, you want to kind of just like sit here and kind of like take your time. You don't want to rush anything too much. You know, you want the pose to look good. And also too, we're doing this asymmetrically at this point. There's no symmetry because we broke off into a pose. So there are elements that I actually want to control here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to control drag and try to get this space here, this lip part of his. Boom. I want to see if I can maybe come through here and curl his lip a little bit. So here's a good indicator too. If you want to know if you have the right stuff selected, just hold Alt and touch that little Google icon location tool. That's going to tell you where the majority of your mask lies because it's going to center itself to that section. So I'm making sure that there are areas that are masked off the way I need them to be, so then I can properly curl the stuff I need to curl. There we go. Something like that, yeah. Again, we're going to break this character a little bit, so I'm not worried about that. Whatever we break, we can fix. And that's a mindset that I definitely encourage, especially when you're coming through and trying to make a good solid pose. You're going to rework a lot of it, but if it's not for animation, it's for a statue, which is what we're building right now, you're going to find out that it's actually pretty simple to just go in and just fix some of that stuff. And the more you work asymmetrically, the more like, in my opinion, the more experience you're going to give yourself over time, because if you have to make a hand, you have to correct a hand, and then you have to go correct the other hand. You're doing 2 hands, so you're actually getting twice the practice. That's how I look at it. Let's bring all that other information back. There we go. Come through. Let me check here. You're from Nepal? Nice, man. Well, pleasure to meet you for sure. Let's see here. Internal games. Hey, Ian, is there a way to copy a QMesh drag out poly with ZRemesh to get the same size on the two different polygons? Hold on. Sorry, I need to reread that. Is there a way to copy a QMesh drag out poly with Z modeler so you can get the same size on 2 different polygons? If I think I understand where you're going with that. So I want to say yeah. Let me finish this pose real quick, and then I'll get to that question. Hey, Richard Bob, how you doing? Can you design a car with this program? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I can tell you there are quite a lot of car makers that use ZBrush, especially on a conceptual purpose, where they go and they actually do concept and design with ZBrush. So yes, 100% you can do it with this program. $100%. Okay. Something I'm going to do too with his nose. His nose is too straight for me. All right, and sometimes, especially with subtle poses like this one, where it's deliberate, but it's like it's an everyday motion. Not everything is going to be super big and dynamic, right? But that's not always what gives you the little feels of it. Sometimes just a little tweak to an area to just give it some sort of asymmetry is really what's going to help separate your pose from everyone else's. So I would say lean into the subtleties a little bit more. Let's go ahead and get a draw size down. Push this in just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, say something like that. Again, we'll correct this here. I'm not worried about that too much. Again, just a little bit. He's a little focused. Now his eye is here too. So what I'm going to do, clear the mask, and I'm going to actually paint this section right here. So I'm going to get a big brush, go to the mask pen. I'm going to paint this upper eyelid. Bring everything back, invert that. I'm going to do a slight soften, but I want to make sure I paint this lower lid. And then let's actually come through. Just give him a slightly closed eyelid on this side. Come through again, just a little bit of a subtle thing. Yeah. Like, we're focused here. We're rolling the dice. All right, let's send this back and let's see what we got. And then let's answer that one question here. And then we'll go through. What's up, Power Master XC? Hi, how you doing? It's hard to explain. No worries, internal. Let me see if I can answer the question based on how I understand it, and then you can give me some feedback on whether or not that's what you meant. Cool, cool. All right. So let's do this. So we sent that back. All right, we had a little bit of a droopy eye here. That's okay. What I'm going to do is hit save next. I'm going to save that next iteration. Perfect. All right, now let's come through. Okay, so this is what I think. If this is what you mean, then this is what I think you mean. I'm going to come through here, make PolyMesh 3D. Okay, I'm actually going to do this on a sphere. I mean, not on a sphere. I'm going to be doing this on a cube. So I'm actually going to come here to PolyCube. Just that's opening up the gizmo, hitting the little cogwheel, coming up to polycube, and that gives me a controllable cube like such, right? Okay, but now let's go to ZRemesher, so ZModeler, so B for brush, Z, and then M for ZModeler. Okay, so if I understand correctly, you want to repeat an action from QMesh, if I understand that right. So do you mean this, where if I have a polygroup like this and I hover over and I have QMesh, then we could just do polygroup all. If I drag this out like this, then you want to repeat this action on the exact opposite side. So if I create a new temporary polygroup and just left click one time, it will repeat that action perfectly all the way out. It will repeat that drag out. Is that what you mean? And if that's the case, then it's just coming in and just left clicking one time to repeat that action. Very cool, very cool. Yep, perfect. Well, there you go. Yep, so again, just come in through. Woohoo! Yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, so have your polygroup selection, whether it be holding Alt and doing a temporary selection, and then once you make that movement, right? And I'm going to go ahead and press and tap Alt a few times. Now I want to duplicate that movement, like I want this to be exactly the same. Just left click one time and it connects it. And the power of QMesh, for those who don't know, is that it actually detects edge loops and wants to weld itself to that edge loop. So like if I went to extrude and was extruding out, notice that like it's not snapping to that edge loop right there. Doesn't matter. But with QMesh, as soon as I start dragging it out, boom, it snaps. And so you can get custom shapes like this really easily. And then I can just come through and then repeat that action. So that's the difference between QMesh. I never use extrude anymore with ZModeler. There's like almost no need to because QMesh is so powerful. So it's rarely will I do that. Does this work if the polygon is different? Yes, this will work if the polygon is different. So I'll have, for example, here, I'll do this extrude. So let me do a temporary selection here. I'm going to set this to a new polygroup. And then I'm going to do the same thing for these guys right here. Totally new polygroup. There you go. Okay, so now if I were to QMesh this out, extrude this out, and then I go ahead. Notice it's changing my polygroup, by the way, because it does want to group like items. So if I were to just go ahead and left click there, it repeats that exact extrusion action, but it's also going to give you the same polygroup. So if you want polygroups to be different, you'll have to manually do that portion. But it will do the action on any polygroup I select. Hi, Daniel. Greetings from Argentina. Hey, awesome to have you here, buddy. Awesome to have you here. Hope everything's going well. All right. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Next question. Where can you sell your designs? I don't. There are tons of. I'm sure if you just Google it, there are tons of places to sell your designs, or reach out to car companies if you want that. So, yeah, that you'd have to research. Let's see. I have a question. How do I decide to keep minimum thickness of cloth in small parts so it can be printed? That's where dynamic thickness is going to be your best friend. So I'm going to go ahead and let's do this. Let's do a plane 3D. And we kind of did this actually on the vest of our good fellow Watto here. So here you have, let's actually do this. Let's rotate this around 90 degrees. Let's insert a cylinder. Let's bring this here. Let's scale this down. And we're going to make a cool little tablecloth real fast. So boom, I'm going to have this here. I'm going to extrude this, or duplicate it, I mean. Come up, and we're just going to make a really down and dirty makeshift table. Boom, we got ourselves a table. Let's just go ahead and delete this thing up here. Beautiful. All right, so we have a tablecloth and we have a table. And I'm going to go ahead and do you one better. Go up to dynamics. And I'm going to set the gravity to something like 2 because we're cool and we don't need it super fast. and then I'm going to go inflate all of about 0.01, and I'm going to put on collision volume, and that collision volume is going to read 2 or more subtools in the scene and then decide whether or not those subtools can be collided or not. And then once it's done, I can go ahead and run that simulation, and now I have my tablecloth and it's drooping all over the place. Hit escape to cancel that. But now I want to control the thickness because I want to 3D print this. So if I hit D for dynamic sub-div, and I'm going to say always yes, this is going to give me what 3 levels of subdivision looks like. But now you'll notice that there's absolutely no thickness. So to control this thickness, all you do is come to geometry, dynamic sub-div, and then come down to the thickness slider, and then determine a thickness that you would want. So let's go 0.0. Let's do something like this. Let's go 0.005. Just for funsies. Nah, that's a little low. Let's go 0.00. Let's go 0.01. Yeah. 0.01. Awesome. Okay. Now I'm going to check this out. So I'm going to leave dynamic sub-div on, okay? But what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to back this up just a little bit and repeat this because I want to show you something. So before we ran the simulation, let's turn that back on. We figured out that 0.01 was the right thickness. And so the reason why I'm showing this with a dynamic simulation as well as the dynamic thickness is because here, I'm going to run that simulation again with dynamic thickness on. And you can see here that it's respecting the thickness always. That's because it's just a preview. So when you're prepping stuff for 3D printing and you're working with, let's say, like a cape, utilize the dynamic thickness to get a sense of the thickness of the actual cape and get it exactly the way that you want it. And then when you're ready to actually get ready for 3D printing and you're ready to prep this, all we need to do now is actually apply the dynamic thickness. And now this, what was once a preview, if I were to turn this off before applying, you'll see it's just single-sided geometry. As soon as I hit apply, now it actually has proper thickness. You can see dynamics turned off and the thickness is here. And now this thickness is measurable. I can actually measure this thickness by turning on and getting the transpose master, like the transpose line. And I can actually measure from one point to another. And that's going to give me, right now, because I haven't set a scene, it's going to give me 0.02 units, which is actually really small. That's 0.20 millimeters, because that's ZBrush's default measuring system. So from that point to that point, that would be too small for the scene. But if I were to set the scene scale to something a little bit more controllable, then I can actually see if that needed to be thicker or not. So that's how you would control the thickness, by essentially just utilizing dynamic thickness to keep that while you're in the design phase. And then from there, you can turn around and apply it when you're ready and get that measurement correct. So that's how I would go about doing it, especially for 3D printing. Boom, boom, boom. And going back, okay, answer those questions. Which books do I suggest for anatomy study? Anatomy for Sculptors is one of my top favorite books. I actually just ordered a book called Human Anatomy. When I get it, I'll take a look at it. And if it's something I recommend, then I'll definitely recommend that. But Anatomy for Sculptors, and then anything like Proco is great, even though that there's a lot of illustration anatomy. That's a great way to practice and get your head around it. But there's also some sculptural stuff by them as well. But Anatomy from Sculptors is definitely one of my top so far. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Always trying to come in with some knowledge, for sure. Let's see here. If I work with brushes of different sizes at the same time, for example, brush 100, and then how can I not change the size each time, please? Thanks. Oh, Okay, I never do that because I just don't. But if I remember right, let me try something real fast. Before I preach to, let's see. Okay, I'm going to change. Okay. If I remember right. If I do dynamic. And then it's turned off. I know there's a way to, I'm pretty sure there's a way to do that. I keep hitting the wrong button. Dynamic's not working for me. You know what? This could be one of those moments where I'm like, I can't think of the answer right now. So if I think of it, I'll come back to that question. Let me just see real quick. I never do it. That's why I'm like kind of blanking on that. Let me just see something real quick. I might be able to find if there is an answer. And if anybody in the chat knows, please feel free to say it. I'm not ashamed to be like, I actually don't know. Let me see. Let me see if this is it, because I'm actually looking at an ass ZBrush. Let me see. Okay, I think this might be what you're looking for, so I'm going to copy and paste this Ask ZBrush video into the chat. Let me know if that's what you're looking for. For some reason, I'm pretty sure it's this dynamic button, but I'm having a hard time actually clicking it. It's not loving me today. Like, I'm trying to click it, so it's giving me a little bit of fun not wanting to do the thing. So try that out too. Oh, this thing right here. Yeah, try that video out. Yeah, it's the S or the D next to the this thing right here. This thing right here. Yeah, remember draw. Ah, there it is. Yeah, remember draw size brush. So if I come here, pick that one up. We're learning together, chat. We're learning together. Going up. Yep, there it is. Yep, 100%. Great stuff. Yes. Remember dynamic mode. Okay, so remember draw size, and then. Yep, that's it. Great. Cool. All right. I never use that. So that's it. The remember draw size brush. Great stuff. Double clicking on the button. It's honestly, it's finicky for me. It could just be my UI size. I don't know. But yeah, that's the button right there. Remember the draw size. That's the one you want. So if you scale that back down, then you move to a different one, and then scale this back up, and then move back, it will remember that. Okay, cool. Actually, you know what? I might start using that. Bones, to answer your question, I did answer your question, which is I don't know where you would, I don't know or would be able to recommend where you would sell your designs. I would say that's something that you'd have to research. I don't sell car designs like that. Sweet. All right. Teamwork makes the dream work. Chat, shout out to you. Thank you so much. It's always awesome. See, that's why I love this community, because we all come together. All right, let's get back to not that one, but let's come back to this guy right here. Let's start tweaking that position. And let's see here. No worries, Bones. Oh, did I miss that question? Where is it? Hi, can you tell me the name of the software you're using projected? Yeah, Shift M. You said you found it though. Perfect. Is there a brush that allows you to slide the vertices of the geometry without changing its shape? Well, the vertices is what captures all the detail and design. So you want to be able to slide the vertices without changing the shape. So if you were to... trying to see if I understand that right. So if I come through here, let's do this guy. Let's just pick this one real quick here. So there is a way to slide edges. So again, if I come here to this this thing here on my cube to showcase it Z modeler. Perfect. So if I hover over this edge and come on up, if I hover over an edge, a point, or a face, and press and hold the space bar, there is the function called slide. And so, yeah, I can slide the vertice around with that function. And if I hover over this one, I could do infinite depth, all right, or I can do infinite wide. So I could do infinite depth, so I can slide the vertice on both sides at the exact same time. So I could slide my vertices like this using Z modeler, if this is what you're referring to, or I can slide an entire edge to loop by going here, going to slide, saying complete edge loop. So again, just hovering over that edge, or yeah, the edge, press and hold spacebar, click slide, slide it. And so you'll be moving the edge loop and how it responds. And of course, that edge loop will slide and react to any other that is happening. So yes, you can, but of course, too, just be mindful that like while I'm sliding the vertices around here, okay, you will be changing the shape of your geometry if you start like pushing it too far out. So like here on this edge, I can slide this up or slide this down, but if I start pulling it in, it's going to change the shape. So this would be how you would try to slide the edge up and down. But again, you'll just want to make sure that you're going in a direction that won't actually change the shape of that. So yeah, that would be the way I would go about doing it. The other way you could go about doing it, which is just using the gizmo and the masking option. So let's say I want to slide these two edge loops here and all the vertices attached to it. So I'm going to mask that section off. And then I'm just going to use the gizmo to slide that up and down. Okay, but again, be mindful that when you start rotating or scaling, you will start affecting the shape, because again, the way ZBrush is functioning is that it's capturing all that detail and information off of the vertices. At any point in time, when you're utilizing, let's say like the dam standard, we're going to do the super low res, but like as I'm coming through and sculpting, notice it's not the face of the model that is actually being affected. It's the vertice itself. That's where all the change is happening. If I take this damn standard and I just scribble just here on the face, nothing is happening. But if I do that on the edge, notice you're getting that change. So the vertices is what captures that information, which is why, yes, you could slide a vertice on something without changing its shape, but in theory, you would be changing its shape just because that's what captures the detail. So hopefully that explanation helps. But if you wanted to just slide some things around, that's what I would go about doing. But if that edge or that vertice is supporting the shape of that and you start sliding it around, you will change it. Arting with RJ. What is happening? What's going on? I have a quick question. I'm wanting to sculpt Hulk like pants. What would you consider be the best way for that? Well, yeah, so I don't know. Best way to sculpt any type of clothing, in my opinion, would be the mask extract function, which I've covered that quite a lot here. But so mask extract, if I wanted to put pants on this guy, I would just like mask a certain section off. So I would mask this section off, say something like this. Whee! There you go. Mask the section off, and then I would just come through here, and then I would go to Subtool, Extract. I would do Extract by mask with 0 thickness, and then once that extracts, and then say Accept. The reason why I would do 0 thickness is because it's actually going to give me single-sided geometry, and then from here I can actually, it's masked off, so with that mask change, I can come through here, deformation, not masking, and then polish by features. Just do a couple quick polish just to get the edge loops nice and clean. And then from there, I would come up to geometry. I would come up to ZRemesher. Secret sauce moment for ZRemesher. If you're not using it this way, I highly recommend you do. But I have a 1.2 million active points. So I'm going to say, like, let's start at like 20 to 25,000 target polys. I'm going to keep adapt on, but use keep groups and drop that down to 0. The smooth groups itself is just, just a nice way to kind of control that mesh a bit. However, I do want this to all be one mesh. Now, of course, this is all kind of wonky and really fast, but I'm going to change the polygroup to one polygroup. And then adaptive size, change that all the way down to 0 so that your quads do not adapt too much that they stay the same, but it still supports the mesh integrity. I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh that, and now you have a base mesh for something that you can utilize for pants. Now this is a quite a big one, so we're going to see the results that we get, but this is how I would start that process. And because it's clothing, keeping it single-sided geometry is going to allow you to apply your own thickness like we discussed earlier, as well as just control it without worrying about two sides of the mesh. And like I said, this is kind of a really janky, fast approach, but I'm actually going to cut this in half. And then if you're in 2023, I'm going to retry that ZRemesher, which will give me different results based off the first mesh before we ZRemesh. So that retry is going to be pulling from a cache state, and it's going to allow me to try different options without Control-Zing. Let's see what results we get. There you go. And then I would just start from here. And then, of course, you know, apply your dynamic thickness, dynamic, add some thickness, and now you have this to work off of. So that's a really down and dirty explanation, but that's how I would approach it. Okay, let's go ahead and fix this guy's face. The nudge brush, again, the way ZBrush captures information is all on the vertices. So if you, anytime you move a vertice, you are affecting the mesh itself. You're so welcome. Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see here. Okay. All right, let's continue. Let's continue doing the facial expression here. I want to get it looking. We need to get it looking good. I think it's looking up. All right, let's go ahead. Let's do this. So here I'm going to do some step down. So like, let's see here real quick. I think he was asking can only be achieved by editing multi-res. So hold on one second. I want to make sure I'm reading everything right. I think somebody asked about smooth as well. Is that what we're referring to? I think it can only be achieved by multi-res solution, probably together with projecting a copy polygonal. I feel like I'm missing context with that one. One second. Let me go back in the chat. Oh, and so it's like a non-destructive super weight. Yes. Okay, hold on. I feel like I'm missing something. Sorry. Let me just going through the chat, making sure I don't. Oh, way up here. How can you smooth the vertices of a model without affecting the shape using smooth brush? Okay. All right. That's I knew I missed a question. Great question. Okay. So there's a couple little tricks with the smooth brush that I want to point out. Back to the handy dandy sphere. So the sphere, this is our best friend to showcase a lot of cool stuff. Okay, so first and foremost is that, let's go back to a mat cap here. Okay, so first off, smooth at 100% is always going to be super destructive. Okay, so that's like number one. It's always just gonna try its best to really drop down and just completely destroy everything that you've been working on. However, this is where the power of subdivisions come into play. So subdivisions allow you to adjust the lower resolutions of your mesh without necessarily affecting all of the detail that's on the higher resolutions. So notice here I have the 2 million active points on this one subtool, right? But I want to actually maybe affect the overall shape of this. I would actually come here to geometry and step down. So you can step down by either sliding the slider all the way down to base level 1, or you can hit shift, press and hold shift and then tap D. So shift D steps down. And then from here, if I move, so if I come through here and I do, like, let's say in a relax smooth, which is a hidden gem in ZBrush, when you start doing a relax smooth, you press and hold shift, you start smoothing, and then you let go of shift. And then while you're still smoothing, and it's going to relax those vertices for you. So here's a full smooth, very aggressive and it's actually changing the shape. And then a relax smooth, press and hold shift. And then I just, as I'm smoothing, I'm not holding down shift anymore. And I'm just relaxing. And if we look at the topology here, again, start smooth, hold, and relax. It's just going to relax those to a neutral state of the shape. So this is how you could actually smooth this all down. Say something like this. Now I'm at subdivision level 1. Now I'm just going to hit D on the keyboard. And as I step up, notice that all that information is still there. But when I step back down, it's because that information needs to be captured by the vertices, it's going to kind of put some of that back. But where this is helpful is that if I start making some bigger changes on a lower resolution, say something like this, where I'm making some adjustments, even I'll make a bigger shape over here so you can really see the difference. Because of course, too, we have to be mindful that we're stretching topology at this point. Once I start stepping up, if I do smaller changes, you'll see a lot of that detail remains the same because, again, it's capturing that vertice. But when I start stretching that mesh so much, then now I'm changing the integrity of how that information is being captured on a sculptural level. And so, yeah, that's going to change. So this is where texture maps come into play, right? Where you want to be able to try to, you can use a texture map to help drive that information. However, that being said, even a texture map can be stretched beyond repair. So you got to be mindful when you're putting detail and making bigger changes. This is why we try to encourage never rush to a final detailing phase until you have enough information that is actually driving the main shape, and that main shape won't change. So when you're sculpting, you're not coming through having all this detail information that now you're trying to preserve while you're coming through. However, if there is unavoidable, there are some brushes that you can try to use to fix some of this. And that would be, first off, doing some sort of like, grab your history state here, maybe go ahead and do a ZRemesh. So you're going to now be rebuilding topology at this point. So let's say like 15. I'll hit a ZRemesh real fast just to give me some cleaner, better topology. And actually, before I do that, let's come through here. Let's do the secret sauce. We're going to do the adaptive size. We're going to make sure that we get nice even quads. That's why that's so important, because again, how ZBrush captures that information. And then once the ZRemesher goes through, then you can do a project back and try to clean it up with like an extractor brush or resculpt it. But I so encourage you to avoid any type of detailing at a level that would cause stretching when you're making big changes to your mesh. Sometimes it's unavoidable, I get that, but it is important to try to keep those worlds separated. You should only really be focusing on high-level detailing, tertiary forms, when you are ready to kind of finalize your model. So here I'll subdivide up a little bit, and then I'm going to project that information back. So then I'm going to come up here to Subtool. I subdivided a few times. I'm going to go to Project History, and it's going to push that information back. But again, I still have some stretching. So maybe now I'll use an extractor brush, say extract drag, and I'm going to press G one time on the keyboard and take my selection that I would want to create an alpha on, and then try to get some of that information back. Maybe a little bit bigger brush, and try to rebuild that. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but it'll get us close enough there where you can blend that shape in, and now you may not be able to tell. So that can be some workarounds, but again, with stretching of your vertices and your edge loops, as I throw my pen out of my hand, when you're stretching all that information, you want to be careful and mindful that how ZBrush is capturing that information at a sculptural level is going to depend how things get. So, that's where, if you really wanted to attack it with like a procedural method where you want to do detailing in something else, that's where Go Z comes into play, because then you can move into like Cinema 4D, Maya, Blender, etc. You can then go Z into that and do your procedural methods afterwards. So hopefully that's not too much information. Hopefully that's what you were looking for. But yeah, just really wanted to explain how ZBrush is doing what ZBrush does. I think that helps understand how you could take that approach. That's why here, if we look at the detail on his face, notice that like I'm moving it around, and this is how I work around that. I actually use that surface noise to drive what the noise looks like. Now, if you look at the noise here, when I go ahead and move my mesh around, look at what's happening with my noise. Right? The noise is actually updating on the fly as I move, because the surface noise is just a projection or a preview of what actually could be there. So I can actually get away with moving big mesh changes like this, right? I can come through here, and what is this? Oh, what is that? Oh, that's his undergums. Perfect. So I can actually move that information around here, and then it's updating on the fly because it's actually not there yet. It's only when that information is baked that you'll have to worry about the edges and stuff like that. So I would encourage you maybe start really going through the method of using surface noise to help drive some of that information until it's finalized. And hopefully that makes sense. So I want to do that. Hey, Rodolfo. Hey, what's up, dude? Coming in on one of my rants, buddy. How's it going? What software do I use? So I'm using ZBrush, which is one of the world's leading digital sculpting applications that is for high fidelity sculpting or anything in between. It is used at a super high professional level, and I highly encourage you to give it a shot because ZBrush is game changing. Here, add that eyelid in there just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, absolutely. World leading. That is no understatement. We're used in 13 plus industries. And most people know us for games, films, etc. But, you know, think about architecture, automotive, jewelry design, you know, advertisement for products, illustration, comic books, collectibles, toys, R&D. It's everything. It's world leading. You freaking know it, man. Theme parks, 100%. 100%. Preach it, Leonard. Preach it. Next time you're out and about and you look at a giant statue and you're like sitting there, yep, statues have been done traditionally, but there is a chance that it was actually done in ZBrush. If you go to Disneyland, you know it's there. You know ZBrush is used. Maybe not for everything, but for most. All right. Come through here, kind of repositioning his teeth. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, show you guys a really cool gizmo trick. Some might know, some might not, but you never know until you try. If I'm going to go to auto groups and have everything a different poly group, instead of having to switch off, mask a section, come through here, now I want to mask this one, clear, etc., etc. Just have the gizmo open, Control-Shift-Tap, and whatever, even if it's masked off, just Control-Shift-Tap with the gizmo, and that is going to mask everything else off but that poly group. And then you can just move that one shape. And see here, just boom. Rotate that around. Move that into your correct position. Come through, Control-Shift-Tap, move that, rotate that. Grab a brush maybe. Boom. There we go. We are going for subtlety here, so I'm trying not to push this too incredibly far, but far enough. Yeah, that would be a challenge. Guess which one was sculpted in ZBrush? Absolutely. Okay, here's a cool little trick too I wanted to point out, especially if you're getting to this point where like I want to affect this side Or I'm sorry, I want to affect this side, but I don't want to affect this side. Now I do have different poly groups. So what I'm going to do real fast is I'm just going to hit save. Okay. And first I'm going to show you, you might know this one, where if you go move topological, right, if you have different poly groups and you're kind of driving this, right, move topological is only going to really affect, it's only really going to affect the poly group that I have selected. Now you are seeing an effect here a little bit. So if I drag this up, you'll see, boom, it's not really, there it is. Now the bigger a brush, it's always going to affect a little bit of something if the brush is super massive. But this is where this next part comes in. If we go over here to brush, dock this on the left-hand side, and I open up auto masking, you'll see here that topological is turned on with a range of 3 and smooth of 2. Now, these numbers can be affected. So I can actually drop this range down. And now with that big brush that was moving that a little bit, I'll back this up just a little bit. Now with that bigger brush, notice it's not affecting this poly group as much anymore. In fact, not at all. I'm able to really sit here and just move that. So you can adjust the range all the way down to 0.01, which will let you fine tune what you're moving and what you're grabbing on. It's usually set to default to 3, like I said, which again will move small parts of it. But if you have 2 colliding meshes that are coming in, you know, whether it be the same poly group or different poly groups, turning on topological and adjusting that range will adjust how you actually move something around. So that being said, when you're coming through and you want to, like, you have a mouth that's too close to each other, like lips you need to separate, that's where topological will come in. Even if it's the same poly group, it will help you open that up a little bit. So just something to keep in mind, a little tip. There we go. This way I can actually get this to be a different pose, just a little bit of a different pose. There we go. Get that kind of affected. What number should you stop at when I ZRemesh? When is it too low? It's hard to use when I go too low, it's hard to use project history. Oh man, that's such a great question. I love that question. Okay, so here, let's do save. So the way I'm going to answer this question is probably going to be like, okay, I see what you say. Like, all right, the only way to really answer this question first off is it's up to you how low something goes, but there is a point where something is too low, right? And so you're saying it's too hard to kind of tell what that too low is. So here's a way to look at it. I've seen some ridiculously low topology models to the point where, like, they're trying to get it game ready and they say, I'm trying to go as low as I can. There is a point when something is too low that it can't capture the information. Even when you move into like a texturing program like Substance Painter, there is a point when your model is just too low. And you'll know that when you are trying to project. So I would say that's where you would want to, if you are ZRemeshing something to the point where you can't project history very well, then you probably are too low. Now here, let's use this tablecloth as the example, okay? So here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make different poly groups because let's accept it. Let's go here, let's hit apply. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to go to poly groups and we're going to go group by normal so we have different poly groups, okay? I'm going to subdivide a few more times and then I'm going to just go ahead and delete lower just for the sake of fun. Now here I have a lot of different shapes and I want to preserve the shape. When you're ZRemeshing, think of it in the same instance as manually retopologizing. The whole point of a low base mesh, subdivision level 1, is to preserve all of the main shapes of the model, not the details and not like, you know, a ton of information. We're talking about just the main shape, what makes up the shape of your model. So for example, here I have some soft wrinkles, but the main shape of this is actually going to be the way it's laying on the table, but not necessarily the wrinkles itself. That can be sculpted in later if need be, or pushed in a different way. But ideally, the main shape is what I'm looking for. So anything that supports the shape. So if I were to come through here and say ZRemesher, again, secret sauce time, we're going to keep adapt on, keep groups down to 0, adaptive size down to 0, and I'm going to move this on up to about 25. I start high because I want to actually give myself a good chance for success when it comes to ZRemeshing, even though I'm at like half a mil. So 25,000, that's actually not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh this. Now I'm going to put my control state here at the top. So I've control clicked here to give me that little gray box. Now I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh. It's going to go through, and again, I have different polygroups, so that's going to help me be successful in the ZRemesh. And then this is where I like to say, how low can I go? What I'll typically do is I will take my polygon count, and I will start, if I get something that looks good but might be a little bit too high on the ZRemesh, I then start kicking it down by half. So I'll say, okay, let's try half of this, try half, and then once I start seeing the forms break, then I know I've gone too low. So here, let's see if we can get a decent example here. I might be pushing it a little too, maybe. Yeah, let's try that again. Let's come through here. Yeah, let's just, for the sake of it, I might have just gone too high. Let's try that again. Boop, 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 boop. And the key with ZRemesher is not to give it too much information. You don't want to give it too much information. Hey, Dan, thank you, thank you. Okay, let's let ZRemesher think for a minute. Sometimes it takes a minute. Okay, great. So notice here, I got my first ZRemesh. I went from 500,000 to 28,000. Now, again, it is going to depend on what you're trying to do. Somebody in the comment section basically said it right. It's going to depend on your task, absolutely. But at the end of the day, we want to just preserve the main shapes as much as possible. So here I have 28,000. This actually might be able to go lower. So now I would say half, and then I would either just hit ZRemesher or hit retry. So I'm just going to go ahead and retry and see what that looks like. Or, you know what, just to speed things, let's just do just normal ZRemesher, just have it work off of this. That's fine. And so now I can still see some of the folds. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to go ahead and try it again. Actually, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, let's go ahead and do it one more time. Okay, here's where we're starting to get a little too low. Here, this is actually fine. It's holding the main shape. I can still see some of the base folds. But if I were to ZRemesh again, now we went from 500,000 down to less than 3,000 active points. So this is where things are starting to bust a little bit. So I would say at this point, this is where we're starting to get too low. So if I were to go one more, yeah, this actually maybe, yeah, see here, it's starting to break a little bit. It's not preserving that edge anymore. It's getting wonky. It's starting to give me some funky results. That's not what I'm looking for. This is a little bit better. So now I would say, okay, this is fine. So then I would try to subdivide up a few times, come up here and do a project history. Now you'll see here that project history broke a little bit. So this actually, again, so this is telling me that this is too low. So this is where you kind of have to like come through and try it a bit. Okay, 12,000 to capture a double-sided cloth. This is actually probably going to be better, so I'll subdivide a few times. And then I'll come through project history. Okay, now I have my information back. So that's a great checking point. So in reality here, if we come back through and we come in, so 12,000 active points, that was low enough, where anything underneath that was giving me errors and collisions. So it's really about just kind of checking yourself. So hopefully that helped out. But again, it is always going to depend on the task. And this is where manual retopology could come into play too, where you can control how much topology you're actually you know where those edge loops are, where the edge loops are important. That's why manual 3 topology still exists, because it's the best way to preserve all the proper edge loops and the shape the way you would want to preserve it. However, ZRemesh, especially for props, does a fantastic job getting you 90% of the way there. And with the way game engines are today, like you can throw a lot at it, which is insane. So that's the method I would take. Hopefully that answers your question in a very long-winded form. You're sculpting for toys and statues? That's so awesome. Well, so that's the thing. So sculpting for toys and statues, the good part is that you don't have to worry about topology. You are fine. Trust me, you are fine. Nobody in toys really cares about topology too much. I worked at Funko. We didn't care about it there. The only time we cared about it is when we knew we were doing an animation. We didn't care about it. And even still, I still sculpt for toys and collectibles. We don't care about it unless you want to care about it, because you're trying to utilize, like I said, like Substance Painter or another way to get texturing back onto your model. Then UVs come into play, and that's always going to be a helpful way of doing it. So depending on how you want to drive your textures and what you're doing, that's the only time I would say that you should really concern yourself with topology. But I have pushed fully done toys straight as Dynamesh, and I've also done it with subdivision. So in the toy world, we are blessed with not needing to really worry about that stuff. So hopefully that helps you. Yeah, exactly. Unreal 5 is changing everything we know about topology. So that's always going to be such a helpful thing. Okay, now I'm going to come through and start cleaning up some of this. This phase is super important. And anybody who's new to this stream, I have done this character over the course of a few streams. So if you want to go back and actually check out a bunch of stuff of the videos I've done on this guy, I've done most of it on this stream. I did not block him out on the stream, however, just because I've done a lot of blockouts on stream, and I stream for only a couple hours every week. So I didn't want to waste time going through all of that. So this time we didn't do the block out, but we did a lot of the other fun stuff. Okay, what I'm also going to do with this is I'm actually going to go ahead, I'm going to go to render, preview AO. I'm going to turn on the occlusion a little bit. I want to just see. Now this is where, again, having surface noise is a little distracting. So I'm going to turn that off, crank up my lazy mouse on this damn standard. And we're going to start adding in some eye detail. A little bit of creases. Just going to do a relax smooth on this. Come over here on this side. With lines like this, I like to keep these lines a little bit asymmetrical, because I feel like this is what helps give the expression of certain characters. You're not going to have the same level of information on every part of your body. Some parts are going to be a little bit different. There we go. Say something like this. Come through here. So I'm going to increase the size of this. There we go. Okay, now for this area right up here, I want a little bit of puffiness. So I'm going to enhance this with the standard brush. I'm going to come through and give it just a little bit of height information. Actually, I'm going to change to the clay buildup. And I'm using alpha 18 to generate some of this information. There we go. Okay, perfect. I think that's, yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. So I like this side of his mouth, but I'm not liking the other side so much. So we're going to focus on that. We're just going to do a relaxed smooth. Let's actually come through here. Okay, so I'm going to actually grab the Move Topological brush, go back to that Topological. So that's funny. This is why I never use this Remember Draw Size, because I'm always adjusting my brush size. So that's definitely a style thing for sure, which I don't knock whatsoever. I'm just like, I'm fighting it now, and I'm like, man, that's why I don't use it. That's why I never use it. So it's pretty funny. Like, I was wondering why I never used it, and it's just a preference thing. It's funny. I was like literally thinking about it. I'm like, I wonder why I don't use this. Oh, because I change my brush size all the time. It's so funny. Yeah, I think I'm digging that. I think that's looking pretty good. Obviously, a little bit more cleanup can go through, but yeah. I do some 3D printing stuff, mostly for parts for DIY. You don't have to have low poly count since the way as CNC software, you mean, or C&D? Software slicers interpret smoothing is rather unpredictable. No, that's true. Hey, what's up, Kairos? How you doing? That's funny. I've been using it because swapping between a big move and a small sculpt brush, you have to resize every time. No, it's true. Yeah. It's just so funny. I mean, it's one of those things I'm like, yeah, there's clear benefits to it. But I'm fighting like, so this is what I do. I adjust my brush size, and then when I take a look at it, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to sculpt. And then I double check that I'm using the brush that I want to use. And sometimes I'm so OCD that I change my mind with the brush, but I've adjusted my brush size. So I'm sitting here like, okay, I want to work on his nice little booty, right? And so I'll be sitting here like, okay, I'm going to do some clay sculpting here. And now I'm like, oh, you know what? I actually want to make a movement. So I change my brush size, and then I make the movement. So as an artist, this is my workflow, right? So now, let's say I have this here, and I have this set up, and then I go back to my move brush, and let's say I have it down here. Now this is turned on, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to make a big movement. Let me just do that real fast. Now I have to make the same brush. It's me. I'm the problem. In the words of Taylor Swift, hi, it's me. I am the problem. It's me. So if it works for you, yeah, continue using it. It's obviously an awesome feature. I just never do that. So I'm literally just laughing at myself. That's the moment we are having right now. Okay, I'm gonna go back to a matte cap, and I'm gonna turn off all of my color. And now I really want to pay attention to the actual forms of this. And so I'm actually gonna go. Now that's a horrible color. Actually, let me see something real fast. Just looking at the normals real fast to see what that looks like. That's helpful too. Okay, let me go back to just matte cap gray. I feel like I need to fix this leg a little bit. It's this weird little bump. Do a light smooth. And I'm going to go down intensity to really low. When I'm fixing my forms and smoothing stuff out at a high level, this is where I use the smooth brush a lot, because I will push forms, but I'm at a high subdivision level, so regular smooth doesn't destroy shapes as much. So now that I want to come through and do a cleanup pass, I will do a small build-up to help fill in any gaps that I think might be in the way. And then I'll do a smooth, and this will help me kind of come through and get some cleanup happening. There we go. So really just focused on the forms and shapes, preserving those as much as possible. BDS, come on down. Okay, I get a little bit of this fat fold happening. I want to build up that volume just a little bit. I want the weight to show. That's mainly what I'm going for. There it is. Yeah, right in there. Hey, what's up, Milk Creative? How you doing? Yeah, Watto's, yeah, I'm loving this character. I'm definitely going to put him in my personal collection of prints for sure. So yeah, so when you're cleaning up forms and shapes, this is how I go about doing it. I always, when I'm detailing, have a lot of little warbles. So I like to come through with a lighter brush and just take away some forms, add some forms, and then clean that up. Focus on those areas that just need to be smoothed out a bit. I'm balancing between having him look muscular but not muscular. I'm trying to do a delicate balance of him having some obvious, like, interesting anatomy while not making him look like he goes to the gym and only does arm day. So I'm trying to balance between him being a bigger character, a little heavier set, but also being strong. And one of the things that I've been doing lately has been studying fat pads in anatomy. And it's so interesting. You can drive a lot of a character based on the anatomical structure of how they gain weight. And so not everybody gains weight the same way. Some people gain weight in their back, some people gain weight in their face, some people gain weight in their legs. It all depends on you, the person, right? And the genetics. And so you can actually drive a lot of interest to your character by determining how they gain weight, as long as it's believable. That's the part we really want to do. So like here, he obviously is a heavier set character, so I'm trying to add a little bit of squish where these belts would be, showcasing that there's like weight and tension that's being driven on his belly. But he's also a strong character. I wouldn't want to fight this dude. So just take your time, with a nice subtle approach to it. Hey Casey, what's going on? I don't need my glasses today at the moment, because my glasses actually, good catch by the way. My glasses actually are for controlling my the stress my eyes go under. So sometimes my eyes feel really good and they're not stressed out, so things aren't blurry. It really helps control my it helps relax my eyes if my eyes are starting to feel super strenuous. So some days I use them, some days I don't. I usually do wear them when I'm sculpting, but I feel fresh today, so it's not too crazy. I might have given him such a huge tricep back here, so let's knock that down just a teeny bit. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Correct some of that anatomy. You like the term fat pads? Yeah, me too. If a shape is sheared, for example, a box or a cylinder, is there a way to make it the same width depth without having to guess? The same width and depth. Wait, is there a way to make the same width depth without having to guess? I'm trying to think how to approach that. I might need an example. I might need an example of what you're actually asking. In my head, I know what a sheared box looks like, but if you could DM me and then I could take a look at that. I need an example for that. My brain is not giving me I don't know if I'm that's where I'm at. I would need an example just to be. I don't know if you're in my Discord, and if you're not in my Discord, we can change that, because then you can ask me over there. Don't switch that. So actually, a little shout out. You can actually send me a message on there, and then I could take a look at that. We also have a ZBrush Discord. If you didn't know we had a ZBrush Discord, and this is the official Discord for ZBrush, you can absolutely 100% also pop into there, and also that's that too. This is where like my go-to answer for that would actually be going back to dynamic thickness, because you can control your entire depth of something, the entire thickness of something. But I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking. It depends. It's going to depend on the shape of it. Like, just because it works for one model doesn't mean it's going to work for another model. So there is a chance that like the answer I give you isn't the answer that is going to be beneficial. I'm going to fall on the sort of it depends. But I would need an example of what you're asking. So you could actually send me a message, just tag me in it, just drop it there, tag me in it, and then at some point today I'll go in and take a look. And see if I can help that way. Because I feel like that's a very specific example. Okay. So we're gonna do a couple little lines here. So I'm gonna add some lines, and I'm gonna just kind of do a control smooth, and kind of. I like to do this too, where I'll come through here. Right, I'm breaking up some of the forms and shapes, adding just a little bit of a dynamic approach to this. His spinal column's back here, so I want to keep that in line. We don't want him having too much scoliosis. So let's make sure that that's lined up relatively normal. Clean that section, do a little bit of a smooth, put this back on. So giving him some interesting back fat. And this needs to be more round. Need to fill this in a little bit better. Can't sweep the legs on that guy. No, he can't. He slaps Anakin around for cardio. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this guy's not a good guy. This guy is horrible. All right? It's a horrible character. But what a great character design. Okay. I'm going to go right under here with his armpit here. I want to add a couple things. So I'm going to add just a little bit of a fold here. I'm going to pop this up and just, because again, the chest muscle kind of comes underneath that area. And even though we're not seeing that because of the vest, I want to make sure that there's an indication that that's there. And then I can push that back in because I don't want to affect too much of that. I want that to lean in there just right. Again, there's some noise on here, but you could see it's being driven by a surface noise because as I update the mesh, it's actually moving and the texture is moving with it. So that's the way to go about doing that. Let's kind of push that in a bit. There we go, something like that. There's part of me that wants to add stitches to this to bring it up to the next level. So I think we're going to do that right now. Let's go ahead and hit save. Now I want the color on, and I'm going to solo this out. Now I want to increase the topology of this. So I'm going to go up to 6 mil. There is a stitch brush, and for 3D printing, I love this brush because you can get nice, clean sculptural stitches really, really well. Now, okay, now see, this is where I find the benefit of I find a size that I really like, and then I'm going to put this remain size on here. You guys have, like, you know what? I've actually been converted on this. So I'm going to go stroke here, lazy mouse. I'm going to increase the lazy mouse here. And now we're going to come through. So I want the stitches to be right. And then I think is it 5? There we go. We don't need that guy. Now we're going to just come through, and I'm going to manually put some stitches on here. I think this is going to level up it's going to level this guy up. And this will be a little bit of a manual process, but I like that. See, the thing is that sometimes, yes, there is a faster way to do something, but I will tell you right now, sometimes the most cathartic way to do a thing is to just manually do it. Because for me, it helps bring a level of detail that I don't think I would get procedurally. This is where sculpting for me becomes like very satisfying. And with this lazy mouse, I can come through, get some nice stitches happening. There we go. I'm going to solo this just for a second because I know this is going to be here. There we go. Now I can use this one as a guide. And I'm just going to come through, make some of these in here. There we go. So that was actually a little too high. So I'm going to lower it myself. There we go. And then let's do the same pattern down here. Boom, 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 boom. Now the reason why I put that S1 on there is in case I want to make an adjustment with another brush. You all have converted me into that. Here we go. All right, yeah, that's from far. Oh, that's looking good. I like that. Thank you. Yeah, this is just the default stitch in ZBrush. This is definitely my go-to. Again, you just need to have a good amount of vertices. So this is where that high level of detail is going to come into play. That was a horrible line. Just like with a lazy mouse, you could just relax that tail, come back. There we go. Perfect. perfect. Let's get in there. Zoom in a little bit. And I'm painting at the same time that I'm sculpting, so this is also really cool. Let's rotate that around. Make sure I'm on that stitch, which repeats the pattern. There we go. Come through there. Again, start from the same stitch here so that there's a nice blend between the strokes. And I'm picking up at the end of each one. There we go. Solo that out. I'm going to hit save real quick. If you could only turn these into production prints. I know, man. Is there a way to redo strokes? Is there a way to redo a series of strokes with another brush? Like if I wanted to replace the stitch with a damn standard underneath to make the seam. There's a way to record your strokes. I've never tried it that way. There is a way to record your strokes. Oh, look, real quick, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to the move brush. I'm going to move this. So when I go back to that stitch brush, same size, yay! Okay, that just literally bailed me out. Okay, so there's a way to record your strokes. So real quick, if you wanted to create a stroke like this and then repeat that action, what you could actually do is come up to stroke, inventory, and there is a button called record. Now you probably found this button before by accident because the hotkey shortcut is 3. By turning on 3, if I go back up here to stroke, you'll now notice that that is record. So I can actually come through and make a series of strokes. Then if I hit 3 again, and then I hit 2, it repeats that. Right? So I actually hit 3 on accident. So I'm going to come through here. So again, turn on record, and then what you'll do is you'll come through like this, right? And then you'll notice it says 4 count. We're looking at 4 strokes, okay? And then if I turn this off, now I can replay this by hitting 2. But what I can also do is if I hit Shift 2, that puts those strokes where that brush indicator is. Now, to ask if I change brush strokes, if I change brushes, it absolutely repeats that. So, yeah. Yep, 100%. Because you're recording that stroke motion. Which made sense in my head. Yeah. So there you go. Damn! Yep. So yeah. So again, this, and the reason why I pointed out like you probably found this with 3, because again, if you hit record and you do enough information, yeah, that's fine. You do enough information, we're going to try to overload it real quick. You're sculpting, you're sculpting, you're sculpting, you're sculpting. At some point, you're going to run out of information where it's going to sit here and it's going to yell at you and it's going to tell you, oh my gosh, no, you've actually ran out of information because it is recording all of these strokes, and I believe it can go up to like 200, something like that. So you can actually record too much, and then it will actually say your brush stroke can't be done because you can't record anymore. And if you ran into that error, then all you need to do is go up to stroke inventory and turn off the record function, and that fixes that problem. That's because it's going to burn up your memory really fast. So just remember, just like turn that off. Okay, let's go back to our stitch. Let's finish our stitches. Great question, by the way. This stitch brush only works with high poly count because it's a sculptural brush. It's literally just a brush with an alpha. So yeah, it's this is for high detail. If you wanted to do low poly stitches, you could actually do that. There is another brush in ZBrush where if you come up here to the light box and go under brushes, if you didn't know this existed, here you go for the first time. There's a bunch. There is a ton and a ton of brushes. And more specifically, if I come up here to, I have some more stitches up here. But if I believe if I come under insert IMM, is that the one I'm thinking of? I believe there's another one I used. Or maybe I'm thinking of, nope, here it is. There is 2 stitch IMM that you could actually use. You can actually come here and then you can use this as a curve. Now you can't use that on subdivisions, right? You can't use that on subdivisions, but I keep hitting the Go Z. That's my fault. So I keep meaning to make PolyMesh 3D. So here you can actually come through and drive stitches with a curve brush. Now why this is beneficial is because if I wanted to actually loop this on the edge of something, I can make this a different polygroup. And then with this brush, I can come up here to, I can either come up to stroke, curve functions, and I can frame mesh polygroups, tap, and then I got stitches there on the side. That's now controllable by here. I could also, not even doing that, I can do, does it work with this one? No, yeah, just the frame mesh. That's the one that works with. Yeah, this brush works with the frame mesh. So frame mesh, come through here and then tap that, and then that actually stitches that area based on that curve. So then that could be separate topology. So that's the other way you can go about it. I like this one because I want it to be sculptural. So I'm purposely using this one because I'm having high resolution drive this brush just because I have all this other detail. And for me, adding this sculpturally is just, it's just the way I want to do it. There you go. So now I have stitches like this on this guy, and that just brings it to another level. Let's see, can't the same curves be used with different brushes? Yes, if you have if you have multiple curve brushes, yeah, that's correct. So I have the stitch one right here. So if I use this brush and then I'm like, actually, I want to be able to, maybe this is what you mean. I want to use a different curve brush, like curve 2. I can use that same thing. And with your history state, pardon me, with your history state, what you could do is, let's say I wanted to actually use the same curve but have different stuff. The way around that is take the curve, you have a masked off area, go ahead and split these mask points. So I want I'm going to go ahead and split, unmasked, so I get this guy right here. So this is now a separate mesh. Come back here. Curves are now controls, they've been with Control Z for a while. So now I have that curve that activated just in my history. So then, yeah, I can use this one, tap that one off, and then do the same thing, split unmasked points. And then from there, Control Z, get that curve back, utilize a completely different alpha, maybe like alpha curve. Now I have this here, tap that, split unmasked points, and then come through, Control Z back, get that curve. So you could do it that way, but once you cancel out a curve, once I hit tap, that curve is technically gone, but you can Control Z back, so now you can get all these different iterations, which I kept splitting off the wrong one, but you get the point, hopefully. Okay, where are we at? Oh man, time is flying. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Perfect. I'm just making some small adjustments to this. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at everything that we have right now. Okay. Okay, I'm done with the stitches. I can turn that S off. I think I'm going to use that S now periodically when I'm doing something a little bit more. I need the brush size to be remembered. Let's get that in there. Okay, I'm going to put that in there. And I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the move brush, make this a bigger brush. Actually, now let's get the move topological. Going to drop to the lower so I can move this in just a bit more. There we go. His mouth was just a little too squared off. I wasn't digging the way that was. Okay, I'm going to take the move brush. I'm actually going to take the move infinite brush because what I want to do now, I want to drop to a lower subdivision level, but I want to give his gull a little bit more weight. And I want to affect the opposite side. I think that was the right term. All right, I'm going to use the move brush. Now I'm just doing some subtle movements. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and just do another little just light, relaxed, kind of smooth some of this up just a bit. Parts of him are too soft and others are too sharp, so I just want to add just a little bit of information. Again, we're not trying to make him look like he body builds for a living. So I want subtlety to that. There we go. Nice, okay, there we go. Okay. Gonna push this area down. So the bicep actually has a little bit of roundness to it. Even if you're not flexing, your arm's down, there's a little bit of roundness to it here because this is where it's going under and connecting to the bone. So we want to make sure that there's like, it's not like just kind of this weird flat spot. It actually has a nice shape to it. So we want to preserve that shape a little bit. And sometimes what really helps me is that I'll take like the damn standard because bicep meaning 2, it has a split kind of down the middle like this. That's running down the actual, down the fiber area. Like there's this split in the muscle. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually add a little bit of an indicator there. I'll smooth that out and just enhance that side just a little bit and see if that helps give me just a little bit more of a natural look. Again, he's not flexing, so we don't need to showcase that, but just that subtle effect. And then I'm going to add some veins, and I just use the standard brush for veins, but what I can do is I'll add like a what I'll do, no, not curve modifier. What I'll do is I'll actually come through, I'll get a smaller alpha, but with a fall off, like alpha 6. And then, actually, no, not that one. Where are we? There it is, like alpha 45. Here we go, something like that would be nice. Let's get some color. Sometimes I'll do like a freehand draw. If I don't like what I did, if I mess up my brushes, I can reset all my brushes. This is actually just hit reset, puts that brush back where I want it. So now it gives me a little bit better of a transition. It's pen pressure sensitivity. But then I'm going to add some color, and I'm going to add kind of a bluish, greenish, brownish color. No, I'm just kidding. Bluish, like a darker green. If you get that reference, let me know. And now I'm going to come through with Lazy Mouse. I'm going to up that up a bit. And then I'm going to just subtly add and then push a little bit harder and then come back down. That's a little too much. The color's intense, so let's drop the RGB. And then I'll come through with a smooth relax. Blend that back in. So where if you really want to you really want to trip yourself out, look up some vein anatomy. That stuff gets really intense. That's too much of a stroke. So I'm actually going to go ahead and back that up. I'm just going to redo it because I want to. I went too far back. Nope, calm down. Calm down. There we go. Perfect. I'm actually going to go ahead and control stamp this. So clear this out. I'm going to mask the section off. Give me a new history. I'm going to control this. And what I'm going to do, and the reason why I'm putting a control history there is there's other ways to use control history other than backing up and using history. So again, I'm going to drop the intensity, but I'm going to increase the color. So now I'm going to draw out my vein. Okay. And instead of like duplicating that stroke that adjust last, I can actually increase that adjust last or decrease that area. And that's going to affect the color too. So I can do something like that. Okay. And that's going to be super helpful to get some of these veins coming in here. So I can add a vein like that, right? I have indicated a vein over here. So again, I can come through, tap that off. And then again, just hit adjust last and push that vein a little bit more. No, like, you know what, push it a little bit more. Something like that. So I have some control. And then again, just smooth relax that just a bit. Maybe add in like a little bit more of that. Just kind of blend that in just a little bit. So we can add a couple veins. Veins are always kind of cool. Looks like the cursor's bugging out. Oh, yeah. Let me see. Oh, I have my... Yeah, the cursor's bugging out a little bit. I'll have to fix that. I had to redo my OBS settings, and I lost a few things, unfortunately. So I'll go back over. I'm just going to add a couple of these guys. I like veins. I think they're kind of cool. Always gives just a little bit of detail. There we go. Come through. Let's add alpha. Alpha 18. Drop down just a little bit. Do a smooth relax in that area. Yeah, I would say we actually got pretty close to what I was hoping for. Again, drop down that intensity and do a little bit of a smooth relax. There we go. Yeah, I would say we're getting to the point where I'm pretty happy with where he's at. Just drop that intensity down. Build that area up just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay. I thought it was a new feature. It could be. It could be a new feature. Yeah, the world may never know. Now I hit Go Z again, and that opened up Cinema when I didn't mean to. So, and it's yelling at me for that. Because I kept hitting Make Polymesh 3D, and right there is Go Z. So I kept, my uncoordinated self kept hitting it. There we go. Okay, cool. Actually, you know what? We should add some stitches on these guys as well. That makes the most sense. So if we come back here, grab the stitch brush. Where are we at? I'm going to go ahead and try to match. Hey, look at that. It's actually pretty good size. Nope. Not exposed. Don't do that. Okay, great. I'm going to solo this out. Now here, I can actually come through. So here, actually, this is super low. Look at this. This is only less than, I mean, this is low. This is less than 5,000. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply and give me, I need some higher resolution to get that stitch in there. And I like things to be relatively consistent with each other. There we go. And because this is a separate poly group, I can just isolate this real fast. Now, because these things are exactly the same, I'm going to see if I can do something real quick. If I can do this, this would be really awesome. It may not work the way I want it to work, actually, the way I'm thinking about it now. Okay. Let's see. That's fine. Yeah, that actually looks really good. Okay. I don't think this is gonna actually, I don't think this will work the way I want it to work. I'm gonna try something. I don't think this will work this way. This is more me now experimenting. I'm gonna control state this guy. I don't think this is gonna work. Come here. Apply. And then I want this to work, but I don't think it's going to. Nah, it didn't work because it's positioned too. Okay, never mind. All right, ignore what I just did. So what we're gonna do now actually is on these pouches, it's the same thing. Like these pouches are exactly the same. And I wasn't gonna make too much of a variation. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and just delete this one. And I'm gonna copy this one. Control Shift D. I'm going to move this around and reposition this where I want it to be. There we go. So the reason why that didn't work was because I was trying to project history, but project history takes into account space. So because it's not in the, because the spacing of it is not in the same location, that's why it didn't work. If anybody's asking, 1 second, I'll check the chat. I'll just come here. Matt, what's up, buddy? Ian, can you do an X-Men next? I'm reading X-Men comics and thought it would be cool. Oh, Kairos, ooh, that is okay. Okay, no promises, but let me think. Let me have a think about. I'm currently working on a Street Fighter piece as a personal project, but that could be pretty cool. Okay, if I had to do an X-Men character, all right, okay, here you go, chat. Here you go. The next model I do on stream, you guys get to vote, okay? So maybe I'll put a voting out, but just throw it out there. Which character would you like me to see? And then I'll create like a voting system, and then we can go that route. So if there's a character you would like me to do from X-Men, throw it out there. I'll write it down, and then we'll do a vote. I can tell you there are a few that I've wanted to do. Nightcrawler. Oh, look at you, buddy. Look at you coming in. We got Nightcrawler, Iceman, Phoenix. Isn't Deadpool an X-Men? He's X-Force. Okay, I'm gonna write these down. All right, I'm gonna write these down. So let's go here. So we have Nightcrawler. Okay, we got Iceman. That could be cool with some textures. Like if we went into Redshift with that, that could be kind of cool too. That doesn't count. Okay, Phoenix. Phoenix. Oh, Phoenix would be wild. Okay, I love Deadpool, but he's not. He's not an X-Men. He's an anti-hero. And Jar Jar doesn't count. All right, if I don't do Nightcrawler, okay, Professor Xavier. Ooh, that's crazy. Okay, that's a cool one. Some hard surface in there. You know who did Jar Jar Binks was Anna Carolina. Shout out to her. Anna, if you're watching. I know you did it. Quicksilver for you. I feel like Quicksilver and Iceman kind of fall in the same category. So if I had to choose one over the other, I might choose Iceman because of the ice texturing would be really fun. But Quicksilver's pretty cool because you could do a lot with that. Oh, I'm gonna go look at nice. Honestly, I'm happily surprised no one was like Wolverine. Okay, cool. So we got Nightcrawler, Iceman, Phoenix, Professor Xavier, and Quicksilver as a possibility. Juggernaut coming in with Mr. White. Ooh. Random fact, did you guys know that Ryan Reynolds voiced the Juggernaut? How about that character with the beak? What is that character with the beak? Let me know what character that is if you find it. Okay, yeah. All right, I have a list. You guys can keep going. I'm going to try to... We have a... Oh, wow, it's already 12. What the heck? It's already 12? Oh, man. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay. All right, real quick, let me just make some adjustments here real fast. Okay. Push that in a little bit. All right. So we actually got really far, everyone. This is super cool. We got a lot of the stitching done. You know, at this point now, it's all about just cleanup and noodling and getting some of the details back in there. It's a lot of rinse and repeat of what has happened today. So I'm probably going to now just go off and just finish this. You know, I could probably put another 5 hours in cleanup alone just to make sure everything's legit and looking good. Do a pass on it. On the base itself, I've only hidden this guy. I didn't get rid of him. He's still there. So if you remember that, that's still there. So, but this has been a super fantastic stream, guys. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm just going to make a quick small adjustment to this, to here, because it's driving me nuts now. I've seen it. So I'm going to have to fix that. Okay. That'll be okay for now. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming in. We got some cool stuff. Let's see. What do we got real quick? I want to make sure everything is here. We have, you think his name was Beak. Oh, okay. Then I'll write that down. We'll do Beak. And what I'm going to do with this list is I'm going to look at the characters. And then I'm going to like narrow it down to like what I think would be like the top 3 or 4 characters that would be really cool to do. And then from there, you guys will go in. We'll do a voting system on like my Instagram or something. So if you're not following me, I understand. It's okay. But if you're not following me, go ahead and just look me up, IR Sculpts. And you can find that pretty much everywhere. So you can see me, you can follow me, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much. My name is Ian Robinson. I am a ZBrush artist and the lead trainer of ZBrush here at Maxon, where we try to make all the learning of ZBrush fun and exciting, and we do a lot of cool projects. So also, before I go, just a quick shout out to the fact that we are doing the ZBrush Summit. ZBrush Summit is happening. We did do an announcement a little while ago. So what I'm going to do real quick is just send you guys the link where you could start registering now for the ZBrush Summit. All right, we want to get as many of you there as possible. So if you are thinking about showing up to the ZBrush Summit, guess what, guys? It's in person. It'll be on the location at the Noman lot. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. So please come in, register. I can't even talk about it. There's so much happening, and I want you all to be there and be a part of it. I'm going to be there, obviously, but come in, hang out with us, and when we have more information about the sculpt off and stuff, we're going to start announcing that. So keep on the lookout, but please go register. That being said, all right, everyone, I am out. I will talk to all of you later. Bye, 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 bye.